And today is the 6th of July in 2023. It's a beautiful evening here in Yorktown, Texas. It's a beautiful sunset, and I just wanted to share some information about Familiaris Consortio. Here, a little girl is holding a little house, and the house in her hands is the first participation of the family in the modern world. The world tells us that families are of different subsets: male and male, female and female, binary, non-binary, what have you. And it's actually only between male and female. It's only between a woman and a man, and they commit to the totality of their love through the conjugal act. And Pope John Paul II, he creates the focus in these 4 tasks that he puts into the domestic church in his exhortation. Those 4 are the forming a community of persons in the family, serving life being the children within that family, participating in the development of society. Society is what it is. We have to conform as being members to the society, but we don't become of the society, as Christ talks about in the New Testament. And then sharing in the life and mission of the church. As members of the church as a whole, we participate in communal prayer and sacrifice, and as Christ commanded in the 2 greatest commandments. But individually within our parishes, we can participate in the different ministries at the Mass. We can participate in a teaching capacity. We can participate in a service capacity for those who can't make it to Mass. And then for those who have familial vocations to either the diaconate or the laity, serving in a manner that serves the pastoral aspect of the church. There's many ways in which the family can participate, from the married couple to the children. A quote from John Paul II here: all members of the family, each according to his or her own gifts, have the grace and responsibility of building day by day the communion of persons, making the family a school of deeper humanity. In the first and most important in some aspects. Without it, the other 3 cannot come into existence. Forming a community of persons, the first task, discusses how the family begins with the parents, with their love shared in totality, as I was saying before, toward one another, in a self-giving love. In that self-giving love, becomes the openness to children, who then become the next generative force to build a lasting community. That lasting community is where the children carry on, what the parents have started, in conforming with what the church says. An artist from the Romantic period, Giovanni Battista, was known for his art. He talked about different aspects of the family and its connection to the time, and his biggest thing was, how do I take the modern world, being of the world, out of the family life and only include the immaterial aspects of the family? And he does this in this painting called First Steps, where, if you notice, the focus is just the child. It's just the family. It's just the immaterial aspects of the family, which is the beauty of what God brings as the family. The next point is serving life. And what is serving life? It's serving the child. It's serving that generative piece that brings the beauty of marriage to a larger aspect of what the church asks for. Life is the generative and productive part of the family, where the parent is responsible for the upbringing of the child in all ways, in order to protect and prepare them for the modern world. The mother takes all of the arrows. She is sacrificing herself for the sake of the child to ensure that child is not only protected, but is taught and prepared for what the world is. And the only way that we can change the world is by raising and rearing our children from the living room, from the kitchen, and in order to get them out the door, you have to start there. And the next part is participating in the development of society. The ways in which the family can do that is by participating in the cultural, social, economic, and political realms of society. And if they want to see change in society, the best way to do that is to create an atmosphere, again, from the home, in which the child, when they are old enough, they can engage the world and prepare the world for change in a positive way, a loving way, that exemplifies Christ's actions in the New Testament and what the church demands and what the church asks for from the laity and from the pastoral perspective. The family, the domestic church, again, is a little village, and the village takes care of each other. And, multiple villages take care of one another. And, if the village wants to see change, they have to exemplify that change from within. And we can do that externally if we start from within. And then, there's ways to raise the cross of Christ in the social setting without it being aggressive. In some aspects, as you see in this photo here, it's intended for the right reasons, but some of the rallies that take place in our modern world are not necessarily the safest, and they're not done with the right intention, where we have a falsification of Christ. The last task in this is the sharing in the life and mission of the church. In this photo here, this is Pope John Paul II in his younger years, is probably in his 50s or 60s here, baptizing a young child. In the presentation of the family, you can see the mother, an older child, the grandmother, and the husband in the back, and then other family members behind them. And again, is a joy that is focused on Christ and the church. And in order to participate in these aspects of the church, there's, you start with the sacraments, and the sacraments bloom into institutional things like education and mannerisms and understanding the beauty of the Eucharist. The mission of the church is to spread the word of God. It's the spread of the word of Christ. It's to show the exemplification of what we're supposed to be doing as Christians, as Catholics, within the family. And it starts with the sacraments. It starts with the family. Waiting for the child on their own, is not necessarily the greatest way to do this, because the child might be accepting something that they think they're ready for, with no backing, with no background, with no backbone of what the church is. But if the family, the parents, are responsible for properly rearing the child, preparing them for the future, preparing them within the church, and you do that by making what the church's priorities important to yourselves, by bringing the child into the natural light of the church. And we see the focal point of Pope John Paul II in his concern for the family. Familiaris Consortio is a beautiful document. It is a long document, but it is a beautiful document that shares with the faithful and anybody across the world what we should do, what we ought to do as members of the church.